So we're recording the video, and also I'll be presenting some slides, and those get presented as well. And somebody brought up recently an issue of maintaining confidentiality. It's not that big a deal in this group, but it is in other groups on Zoom. So if you're in other Zoom groups and you want to remain confident, that's not the right word, confidential, you can remove your name, or you could not do video, and you could, so there's ways to protect your privacy if you want to. Anyway, I don't know why I got off on that tangent. So I do have slides, and I'm just going to walk through these. And, we do this just so that we have a little bit of structure and focus. And we're always interested in feedback on how these sessions could be better. So if you want less slides, more of this, more of that, something, add whatever you want to add, change, remove, let us know either during these calls or maybe offline and email. So this is kind of the standard starting slide, where it's a group, we're facilitating Course of Love gatherings, the art of taking heart, and interactive Zoom gathering. I presented something similar to this, and it just seems like it's a nice way to graphically illustrate what I think we as facilitators are interested in doing with the gatherings that we're facilitating, the groups, if you will. And the first step is that we notice this web of relationship that exists in these gatherings. We pay attention to it. We notice it. Eventually, we watch it waking up. We can actually almost see this invisible web wake up. And as we continue to watch it awaken, we observe it take on a life of its own and to expand. And to me, that's the essence of what we're trying to do here. This is just my perception. We're trying to wake up and see this web of relationship that exists amongst these gatherings expand and take on a life of its own. So hopefully that graphical illustration might help us a little bit. Here's our suggested agenda for today. And we're going to do a brief review of the suggested guidelines. And we're not going to do the role of facilitator from our past gathering, because we're taking a different perspective on the role of facilitator. So I should have removed that bullet. In fact, I can do that right now. We'll then go into an opening meditation, a prayer and meditation that Joan has pulled together. The bulk of our time will be talking about the guidance of the oneself. How and where do we receive guidance as facilitators? How do we come to the oneself and that we share with God? And so exploring the nature of the self for guidance and joyful dialogue. We'll as really is tied to that, we'll get into some open discussion about how do we as facilitators receive guidance. So what works for us in terms of understanding where our group should go. Towards the end, we'll review a list of ideas. We've kind of modified these a little bit on where our next discussion could focus us, and then we'll close. So with that, I'll pass it back to Joan.
Okay. Well, today,
let me. I meant to share these guidelines.
Oh,
sorry, I apologize. So just real quickly, and this can be useful for both this gathering and also other groups that you facilitate, but just be aware of and be observant of the spirit that lives in our collective, and foster dialogue, add to the ideas being discussed, be succinct in your share, mindful of the number of people in the call. And when you want to talk, especially in the Zoom call, I would just say simply unmute your microphone and start sharing. And so let us know if there's any changes you'd like to suggest to these guidelines. And I think I heard somebody start to talk before. I might have interrupted. I'm complete.
okay. Well, today our topic is, how do we come to know our oneself? And how do we, as individuals, receive guidance? These are the same questions. And so we're going to do an interweaving of both A Course in Miracles and A Course of Love to reveal the one self of love and deepen in our awareness of this one self, our very I am. Well, let us, we're going to begin then as far as our connecting with our hearts. I'm going to read a prayer from the Course in Miracles, and it's a beautiful prayer where it was actually sent to Helen and Bill during the time when they were scribing the Course of Love principles. And so let's begin with that because it ties in so well with our topic of self-guidance. And you might want to drop into your hearts and close your eyes and just relax into this prayer from Jesus. How can you who are so holy suffer? All your past except its beauty is gone, and nothing is left but a blessing. I have saved all your kindnesses and every loving thought you ever had. I have purified them of the errors that hid their light and kept them for you in their own perfect radiance. They are beyond destruction and beyond guilt. They come from the Holy Spirit within you, and we know what God creates is eternal. You can indeed depart in peace because I have loved you as I've loved myself. You go with my blessing and for my blessing. Hold it and share it, that it may always be ours. I place the peace of God in your heart and in your hands to hold and to share. The heart is pure to hold it, and the hands are strong to give it. We cannot lose. My judgment is as strong as the wisdom of God, in whose heart and hands we have our being. His quiet children are his blessed sons. The thoughts of God are with you. So what are we feeling? What's rising from within that well of spirit? Yes, yes, Barbara. Whoops, I can't. She's muted. Barbara, unmute.
The only thing I could think of when you were reciting that prayer is that this, for me, is where my truth becomes so obvious. And that when I do look for that communication between myself and spirit, higher power, Holy Spirit, I walk and I listen. And I know that when what I hear is the truth. And you recognize that in every instant that you are open to receiving Holy Spirit's message in any way or form. I loved what you sent out, and I really thought about it. And what I did was I meditated on it, and I just listened. And I know that what comes up is truth. And that's a different part of what, it's not anything like an ego when I want to figure something out. I just know the truth comes up for me. And I'm so glad that we were talking about this today. It really is very relevant to what I'm looking at in my own life right now. So complete. Thank you.
You. Anyone else? Joe.
Well, what comes up for me is relevant to this gathering in particular. I have some mixed emotions about it. You know, I'm excited to help bring people together and, you know, share our experience about what it means to facilitate. But I'm also scared. I feel overwhelmed. It's like, you know, I'm going to screw up, or I'm driving people away, or, and then another thought or feeling comes in and says, it's not about me, you know. So I guess maybe I want to also transition to saying, you know, Joan and I really need your participation, like we're doing now, on how this can be better. We can't do this by ourselves. It's not about us. Anyway, that's what came up for me. I'm complete.
Yes, Corinne.
I've done that prayer many times in my Course in Miracles study group, but that's the first time I have sat and had someone read it to me like you did, Joan. And it was very moving. And I really felt like it was the voice of love talking.
Yes.
And the whole, how that starts, how can you who are so holy suffer? And so then Joe, when I hear your comment, about concerns, I'm thinking, that's not possible. What you and Joan are doing is purely from your heart and from love. So none of us who are joining in this special opportunity can suffer or feel judged or feel less than. We're all enough. And I just thank everybody involved in this group today and look forward to what we have to share and learn from one another. I'm complete.
Well, thank you. I'm addicted to suffering, so.
Yes. And Jesus says in the Course of Love, your worries will not leave you before you leave them. So, but let's go ahead now and explore this dynamic of the one self that we share with God. This one self that is our very I am. And I'd like to. Pardon?
Want me to share the next slide?
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
And Christopher, I don't know if you know how to mute, but it'd be good, I think, if you muted. We're hearing a little bit of background noise. So here's a slide with some thoughts, and let me know when you're going to stop or start sharing, Joan.
Okay. Oh, we have that. Let me just read the bottom of that. Because I included this with the reminder link that went out. Remember a feeling that a place of union exists in which you know God, in which you know love, in which you know of joy without sorrow and life everlasting. So, okay, Joe. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So that, as Barbara said, the prayer that we read from the Course in Miracles, that brought up that place of union that exists within us, that feeling that we embrace, feel in our hearts. So we're going to look at the topic of self-guidance right now from day 26 in the Course of Love. Oh, and at this point, if you have your Course of Love book near you, and if you also have your Course in Miracles book near you, it would be helpful. And we're going to go to day 26, and the page number, let me just, I think it's 605. Let's see if that's correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right, self-guidance. And is someone ready to, would like to read? Who would like to read the first, let's make it the first 2 paragraphs. Is that, okay, Steve, please proceed.
Day 26, self-guidance. It has been said that you are the source and the power of coming to know and making known. It naturally follows, then, that you are capable of self-guidance. Let us talk a moment of the concept of guidance. When you have sought guidance, you have sought because you have not known. You have sought externally because you have not known of a source of internal guidance. You have been guided by teachers, counselors, and leaders of all kinds through words spoken and read, through dialogue, through example. If you had known, you would not have sought guidance. Thus, your idea of guidance is likely to hinge upon this concept of the unknown. Complete?
All right, so let's just pause a moment. And you are the source and power of coming to know and making known. Does that have a resonance with you? That we are the source of power. It is us who is making known. We are creators.
I think Bill has his hand up.
Bill, yes. He's muted.
I was trying to click on the microphone by my picture. I just want to say that I so appreciate what we're finding in A Course of Love as we discuss we learn about the distinction between knowing and coming to know. And say that is all that is available for us, and it's all that is. Contrasted to the previous insight of what I know and what I don't know, which is more of a judgmental mode. This is more, to me, this coming to know consciousness, or the awareness of the coming to know, is us simply coming to realize what is. That makes it much more gentle, much more accepting, much easier to just remain open to and recognize what is available, what becomes available at the right time in the right manner. I'm complete.
Thank you. Bill, would you like to read the next 2 paragraphs? Do you have your book?
I do.
Okay.
And one thing that we've come to do, or started within our group, that we really appreciate is when we see the capitalized self, we refer to that as the true self.
Yes. That does help to clarify, doesn't it?
It sure does. How about everyone else? Is that a regular pattern for others? Anyway, okay.
Well, we use divine self. Sometimes because of the Course in Miracles, the way we'll say the cap S self, But yes, but we do too.
All right. That being said, now let's speak a moment of the true self as guide. This simply means that you turn to the true self as the source of coming to know of the unknown. While simple, this idea can be expanded upon. 4. A guide shows the way, creates movement, gives direction. These things, too, the true self can do if allowed to do so. The true self will guide you if you will allow it. Your true self will lead you down from the mountaintop and through the valleys of level ground. There is no other guide. We are one self.
Yes.
One self. Yes.
Yes. Right. In unity and relationship. Yes. Mhm. Yeah. I particularly like that line about the self can be our guide if allowed to do so. Isn't that interesting? We have to give it permission. We have to give it priority and receive that guidance. Yes, Barbara.
Yeah, I just want to say that this morning especially, I was reading and I just read, stop and listen. And when I did that and I just listened, I truly heard in my heart, it dropped down to my heart as a feeling more than it was any other thing, that a word or anything like that, but it was such a strong feeling. And I think that's when we are in communication with the divine self, is when we get this feeling, and it really comes and resonates in our heart, and not trying to work with the dialogue as much as working with the emotion and the feeling when we are in that true place of listening and, like you said, giving permission to guide. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, what comes to mind is a question, which is, and this is maybe the ego mind asking this question, but where does the true self live? And I know the Course says the true self is within, but what occurs to me is that I think the true self, and this is just my opinion, the true self lives literally between the mind and heart. That is the Christ consciousness, I think. And so when I'm dealing with a challenge as a facilitator and I'm wrestling with what to do, I find it useful to have this dialogue within myself between thoughts and feelings. How do I think about what's going on? How do I feel about it? And to me, that wakes up that relationship between mind and heart, that wakes up the Christ within the true self, is when I have that inner dialogue of exploring something from both thoughts and feelings, not just one or the other. Anyway, I'm complete.
Good. Thank you. Yes. Anyone else?
This is Lemoyne.
Yes, Lemoyne.
And, Joe, I just think of, I think of where it lives is everywhere, that the universe is actually conscious. But I agree totally. I take your point that in that interplay of thoughts and feelings and being wholehearted is where we actually can allow it entry and have it expressed. And I'm complete.
Thank you. Yes.
But, we go back to the both and. It exists both within and in the universe. And we can find ourselves, I'll say, in between those realms. Not sure the right word, but the body can experience the universe in an expanded willingness, a willingness to come into touch with it.
Yes.
I think back to the first time I went through the days, and there was some trepidation in taking this true self as the guide. You know, we had been told throughout, you know, the fourth treatise that, you know, the time of learning is over. The time of knowing is upon us. And then in chapter 12, the prelude to the dialogues, Jesus says, I'm no longer your teacher. Oh, darn. Where's that leave me? You know? And I guess there wasn't a recognition of it until I got further back in the days. But I think the first time going through this, confusing may be the wrong word, but there's maybe there's this question of, is this actually true? You know, am I this? It's definitely mind-boggling, because mind can't get itself around that. But then the heart comes to know it. I'm complete.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's look at this voice for love that's always within our hearts. Let's look at it as an inner compass that guides us. So let's complete the reading. There are about 3 more paragraphs. So who would like to read next?
I want to jump in real quick with a comment, and then I could read.
Okay, wonderful.
Just with what we were talking about, I believe within myself, I have to have that head-heart connection. Once I receive that, and then I can let the rest of the world, you know, as within, but I have to have it within first. I have to be the receiver to let the love around me come within me. And what comes to mind so often is in the mornings, we have Sunday mornings, Joe's session, that at some point it becomes a life of its own. And I believe that's because, you know, the group as a whole, everyone is at that someplace without as within. And that's when I can't say I can feel it, but I'm living it. You know, that the wholeness, the completeness, the love is there. I can't really describe it, but it's knowing that it is, the knowing that it is. I'm complete, and now I'll read. Is that 26:5?
26.
That was a question.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you. You can trust in yourself. Will you, by tending your garden, you will develop this trust and prepare for your descent to level ground. Your self-guidance can be thought of as an internal compass. It will not necessarily know the answers as each answer is sought, but if paid attention to, it will show you the way to knowing. The academical transition, this passing the unknown into the known. This moment when the unknown becomes the known within the self is the birth of creation. It is the accumulation of all that has come before, the all of everything realized in a single heartbeat, a single instant of knowing. This is the one self knowing itself. This is not knowing that comes with a great aha, but knowing that comes with the awe of reverence. Creator and created as one, and the homecoming experience that is of union. Self-guidance is the population, the propulsion, the fuel for the oneself to know itself. You are ready to be so known. I'm complete.
Thank you. That feels complete, doesn't it? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, anyone else with a response?
Well, I'm struck by the sentence that says, we're not going to be given the answer necessarily,
Yes.
but we'll be given the path of knowing where we can find the answer. And for me, that's relationship. That's dialogue, engaging in dialogue, entering in dialogue.
Yes.
I'm complete.
So I think that is the unfolding tapestry that the Course will sometimes talk about. Yes. Did Karen? Yes.
Yeah. I'm having lots of feelings. I'm not sure how to articulate. The prayer, I felt tears when you read the prayer in the beginning. And I felt that the truth of who I am speaking to to me. I can feel that unified oneness so easily. And if I don't think, and then if I think, then it starts to split again, and I have something to think about, and that doesn't get me anywhere except feeling like I'm not in touch when I really am. So I have to, my trust and my faith is really great, and in the 40 days, I just finished reading the 40 days and the complete work for the first time. I was, when Jesus said, now is the time where I will leave as your, guide. And I felt the rightness of that. I've always known of Jesus as a way shower, and felt the baton kind of being passed formally, and have felt that in the past. I felt the kinship and also the co-creatorship. And the whole of the 40 days was absolutely amazing. And when I got to the end of it, I was left with the information that validated my experiences. But now as some time has passed, it's like when I was reading it, it was so real for me and so true. And now that I'm finished reading it, I'm not as in it as I was while I was reading it. I don't know how to describe how I'm feeling. I don't doubt myself, but it's just, I need to stay in the reading of it. Just need to stay in the reading of it because my mind wants to think about it. And I can only experience the truth of who I am when I'm being it, not thinking about it. I'm complete.
Thank you. Yes, that actually you expressed that very well. Yes, so just needing to be immersed in it, living it. I think, Bill, you said last week about living the Course. And if we can let our mind get carried away. But if we can keep in touch with that I am within, that is always showing us the way, learning to recognize the I am. So now I'd like to go to a section in the Course in Miracles. It's lesson 95, and we're going to go to paragraph 12 and 13. This is probably, well, my favorite lesson in the Course in Miracles. So again, we're going to page 168, paragraph 12 and 13. This lesson starts off by saying, I am one self, united with my Creator, at one with every aspect of creation, and limitless in power and in peace. The first 11 paragraphs talk about practicing, about following the guidelines for practicing that the Course has set out. But then you come across these two jewels, these two paragraphs, 12 and 13, which express who we truly are in our relationship to that self in the world, and perhaps even what our purpose is here. So let's look at paragraph 12, and I'll start off reading it, and then maybe we'll have a volunteer for the next one. You are one self, united and secure in light and joy and peace. You are God's Son, one self with one Creator and one goal, to bring awareness of this oneness to all minds, that true creation may extend the allness and the unity of God. You are one self, complete and healed and whole, with power to lift the veil of darkness from the world and let the light in you come through to teach the world the truth about yourself. I find this such a powerful paragraph. I see that we've been given a mission statement. If we want to recognize it, I'm going to read those lines again. Is this a mission statement?
You mean
Does it resonate with you?
A mission statement for us as facilitators.
Or for living our life.
Okay.
Yes. So I'll read that one sentence again. It starts with 2. You are God's Son, one self with one Creator and one goal, to bring awareness of this oneness to all minds, that true creation may extend the allness and the unity of God. Is that not what we're about in both courses? And it doesn't say it's a mission statement, but how do you feel? Does this sound like we have been given a holy purpose here? Sarah. A holy purpose for our I am in this world.
I find it interesting that, so at various places in this course, and maybe even in the Course of Love, it says, you have but one purpose. And then it uses different words to describe that purpose. Some places it says healing, to bring healing into the world. And this is saying the same thing,
Yes.
To bring awareness of this oneness to all minds. Well, that's healing. I'm complete.
Okay. Anyone else?
This is Lemoyne. And yeah, again, like Joe, I take the point that there's many ways to say it. For me, I thought about what you asked, is this the mission? And sort of my entry into this realm is is, I think, as it's laid out, is the continuous awareness of love's presence, and that is that is accessible through the oneness, through the unity. So yes, it could be the mission. One way to say it, for sure. I'm complete.
Anyone else?
I feel overjoyed knowing there is a purpose and a mission.
Yes. And in a few minutes, we're going to go and look at Jesus's purpose in recognizing his I am. And his life took on meaning. But first, let's kind of fall into this next paragraph as well. So anyone like to read that one?
Sign me up.
Okay. All right, Bill.
You are one true self in perfect harmony with all there is and all that there will be. You are one self, the holy Son of God, united with your brothers in that self, united with your Father in his will. Feel this one self in you and let it shine away all your illusions and all your doubts. This is your self, the Son of God himself, sinless as its creator. And with his strength within you and his love forever yours, you are one self. And it is given you to feel this self within you and to cast all your illusions out of the one mind that is this self, the holy truth in you. To me, it reiterates what we were reading in the previous paragraph about our function, given twists, give different perspectives, but continuously bringing us back to our wholeness, our divine state, and the word that comes to mind within all of this is our will, our willingness, that has been so key to me through A Course in Miracles and subsequently here in A Course of Love as well. And I'm seeing that willingness as an expression of our intention, an expression of our openness, or my openness to that. And I see that, and I hold that as we read this. A little subtle voice in the back is saying, bring it on. I'm complete. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We are feeling this one self today, aren't we? We can't read that and listen to it without feeling that self. It just rises within us. And we can say, yes, thank you. Thank you, God, for bringing me here to this place, this feeling where we do know God, know love. Yes. Anyone else?
I'm just enjoying, Barbara, watching you glow right now. You're emanating and radiating.
Oh, we are. Just looking at the faces is just beautiful. Everyone is glowing and emanating. Yes, thank you. So let's go now into day 2 in the Course of Love, where we're going to look at Jesus's response to his mission in life. That response came when he recognized his I am. So we are going to go to day 2, paragraph 2.21. It's on page 498. So back to day 2. And we're going to go, it's almost at the end of that chapter. Where Jesus talks about his life and how he was guided, what his guidance were. So we have an example again. Are we finding it in the Course of Love, day 22.21? Yes. Okay. And Barbara, you had put up your hand to read. Would you? Whoops, you're muted. Wait a minute. We're not hearing you, Barbara.
Day 2 or day 22? I'm not sure.
Actually, this is day 2 in this case.
Okay.
Day 2.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's point 21. We have 2 readings that are very similar in terms of their numbers. Interesting coincidence.
Okay. Got it. I think I got it.
Everyone there?
Page 43?
Page 498 in the days.
I got it.
Day 2.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
And you want to do 21?
Yeah. Go ahead. Do 21 and 22.
Okay. You have accounts of my actions that begin with the appearance of my form in the world, but that mainly occur during my time of maturity. These accounts do not stress the time of childhood, as it is a time commonly held to be one of innocence. The accounts of my maturity generally begin with the recognition of who I am. This is symbolic of the idea put forth here that until you are aware of who you are, your life has not literally or symbolically begun. It was in awareness of who I am that my life took on meaning. It could be argued that this awareness existed at my birth, and this too would be accurate, since all births are meant to be eagerly looked forward to as beginnings of I am. Since most births are seen in this way, and most mature lives are not, we concentrate here on mature lives.
Thank you. Thank you. So it was in awareness of who I am that my life took on meaning. And so ours takes on meaning as well. Yes, Joe.
Well, it seems to me what struck me during this reading is how, I may have volunteered to be a facilitator, or life may have called me to be a facilitator. This session is about being a facilitator. And it's been my experience that can kind of be, baptism by fire. We're brought face to face with the issues that we need to deal with in order to be who we are. And I'm just struck by that last sentence in that first paragraph. Until you are aware of who you are, your life has not begun. So to me, it seems like there are many things in my life that have caused me to wake up, but being a facilitator is one as well. It is, in a sense, a birthing process, the birthing of who I am. I'm complete.
Thank you. Yes, that our life literally hasn't begun until we're aware of who we are. Like Joe just said, it is a wake-up call in itself, isn't it? Yeah.
Question. Just going back to the biblical accounts. In 221, where he says the accounts of my maturity generally begin with the recognition of who I am. That arose during his 40 days on the mountain, didn't it?
I think it could be, yes.
I took it as his baptism. It usually appears with the baptism by John, I think. I'm complete.
I'm thinking too of Jesus at 12, in the synagogues, starting to make truth known. He was quite young when he did that. I'm complete.
Thank you. Okay, so let's continue with this. Who would like to read next? Paragraph 2.23. It's a pretty long one. And see this process of recognizing our I am. Do we have a reader?
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I read.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. My mature life thus began with the recognition of who I am, as does yours. This time was followed by my example life, a life that began with the 40 days and 40 nights spent upon the mountain, and continued with my joining with my brothers and sisters, with the bringing of light to darkness, power to the powerless, health to the sick, life to the dead. My life touched all those willing to be touched, changed all those willing to be changed. But great unwillingness remained. Willingness was not yet upon humankind. The choice was made collectively to remain in illusion. The choice for continued suffering was made, and so I responded to that choice. An example of response was needed. The example was that of a symbolic gesture. It too was a choice to take all that suffering upon myself and kill it. To say, here is what we will do with suffering. We will take it away once and for all. We will crucify it upon the cross of time and space, bury it so that it need be no more, and demonstrate that new life follows the choice to end suffering. I'm complete.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's go ahead and finish this paragraph, and then we'll pause for discussion, or the next section. The next reader, do we have one more reader to read to the end here?
Sure, I'll read.
Okay.
I did not suffer, for I knew who I was and chose no suffering. This is what is meant by the idea that has been repeated as, I died for your sins. My death was meant to demonstrate that the end of suffering has come, and with it, eternal life. Here then is where you need to make the choice that those in my time could not make, the choice to end suffering. This is the choice I made for all. This is the choice you make for all as well. Willingness is now upon humankind. What my life demonstrated but needs to be demonstrated anew. But this will not happen if you cling to suffering. If you do not accept yourself, all of yourself, you cling to suffering. That is why you first needed to accept me. To accept me is to accept the end of suffering. To accept the end of suffering is to accept your true self. But that does not mean we will not suffer, does it? That was a question.
Yeah, I know.
Does it? Yes.
Because we still suffer at times, don't we?
Well, to me, it's linked to, am I willing to accept my true self? If I accept my true self, I'll accept that I am one with everything and everyone. You know, I've heard it said that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And we suffer when we go through pain thinking we're on our own. So I think to accept the end of suffering is to accept your true self. If I accept my true self, suffering will end.
I was talking about, because I've definitely had pain in my life. But the suffering, thank you.
Beautiful answer, Joe. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyone?
I'd like
Yes.
to speak to the pain too. I've lived with pain for about 12 years now, and I'm struggling a little bit in my consciousness about it, because I'm thinking, knowing who I truly am, why am I still in pain? And there's something wrong with that. I don't know what it is, but it's not, I'm not finding myself feeling guilty because I'm better. And I know the pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. But and I guess it's in stages that we can accept the truth of who we are, you know, to the degree that we're open and receptive to it, and how immersed we stay in it. But I am having some dances with pain, and wanting to sort out, is there something I need to be doing differently, or is pain just going to be a part of my life? Complete.
Yes. Steve.
Just a question. Is pain a problem or an opportunity? Is there a lesson behind that someplace?
For
Are
some
you
reason,
complete? Go.
For some reason, I'm reminded of Billy Crystal did an autobiography, and his working draft title of it was "Everything Hurts." And it seems like
Yes.
as we get older and older, our body just kind of goes, "Yeah, everything hurts. I'm complete."
Thank you. Yeah.
Uh,
Perhaps. Go
I'd
ahead.
like to say that what I realize is, because I've had extreme pain at times, I've had lengthy pain, and as I get older, I definitely have pain more often. But I realize is that it always gives me the opportunity to strengthen my faith, and to get closer, to be closer with God. And that for me is my saving grace. I'm complete.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Could this be these situations of pain in our lives? Could they be the alchemical process? That which is leading us to our wholeness, to the experience of the joy within our being. And, yes, Barbara.
Pain has been my friend, believe it or not. And I was, not too long ago, was in a lot of pain that took me really to my knees. And I asked that question, what do you want me to know? What am I to learn about this? And I can only tell you, this wasn't the first time that something happened that was quite, you know, it stopped me, you know, and maybe I've had it when I was 6 years old. I had it when I was 36 years old, and I just had it recently where it took me right off my feet and I had to stop. And what it did for me was just what I think it was Steve or Joe that said, no, Steve, that it taught me something. It brought me so much closer to God. And things just fell into place for me at a very deep level. So now I'm fine, and I thank, you know, that experience, because I think it was a message. You know, I feel it was a message, and I know it was a message, and there was something to learn from it. I'm complete.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
I'm wondering if I've been perceiving my pain as I'm doing something wrong. And if I were okay, I wouldn't be in pain. So that could be a faulty belief right there. I do believe I learned from everything. At least the opportunity is there. From good and bad, I've lost a child. The grief was immense. I learned a lot. But the physical pain hasn't felt like it made me feel closer to God. It made me feel like I was missing the mark. So I'll have to take that into meditation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Well, this is the beauty of our dialogue. We can be one. We can be one with another's experience in the pain that, and relate it to our own life situation. But in the dialogue that we are having, we go deeper into the self, and it is that self that rises, that self that claims us and allows us to live courageously, from the heart. So everyone, just how beautiful your lives are, that you can live the truth of your being in spite of the conditions. It helps us to live from our hearts. It helps us to live the course. And as we keep base with our hearts, we are just ordinary people living miraculous lives. You are a miracle. Yes. Okay.
I really appreciate this dialogue. It's an amazing question to ask. And I recall when first reading The End of Suffering, and maybe like the third or fourth time through the book, of coming to this point of the end of suffering. Of being more, I've recognized the change for me has been to be more observant within my being, within what's unfolding, and finding myself not attached, not so much attached in any sort of heaviness or any sort of drama that was part of the symbol of the suffering in the past. I want to take a moment to share an amazing experience that I had about 2 years after fooling around with the Course of Love, and many years in the Course of Miracles, of having a skiing accident out in Colorado where I And while I laid up on the mountaintop, I knew that I'd done something serious. And the message that continues to come through for me is I came here for something bigger. The ski patrol and then the paramedics came by and got me down the mountaintop onto a helicopter to the hospital. All right. I'm meeting with the neurosurgeon within about 3.5 hours. And he's saying, I can't believe you're not paralyzed for life. But then next time I came to, after spending time in prayer with the staff, the medical staff, came to, and it was about 7 o'clock that evening, about 8 hours after the accident had occurred. And by 11 o'clock that night, I was able to stand. And the next morning, I was able to walk again, neck brace and all, mind you. But during the entire process, the entire 6 weeks that I had to keep that neck brace on, there was no pain. What there was continuously was I came here for something bigger. And I look at that now, and at that time, I was just in tears of joy, tears of wonder over what has unfolded. But I see that now as we're sharing here. I'm here for something bigger. I believe each one of us are. We're recognizing it and whatever else may be unfolding. You know, there have been plenty of opportunities for suffering since then, and it's significantly different than the previous 40 to 60 years of my life. I accept it. I don't understand it. I can't prove it or demonstrate it, but I accept it, and I can share it in this circle in that manner as perhaps just an insight of what's possible for us to be open to, and what sort of changes unfold for us that keep us going. Thank you. I'm complete.
Oh, thank you. That was, yes. So that these opportunities for suffering are always plentiful, but we don't have to take advantage of them. We can stay in our hearts and share from that which has affected our lives, that which has made us grow. And again, those alchemical moments that Bill, you just shared, and also Karen and Barbara and George, and these are beautiful moments where the unknown is becoming known within each one of us. And we're all benefiting from the process of who we are. It's never ending, is it? Never ending. Always growing, always unfolding. And that is so beautiful. I'd like to conclude this part of our session, and then we'll go to some other discussion of ideas for next week and discussion. But I'd like to end it with just a paragraph from channeling. And channeling is one way that we receive guidance. If I can get to that page. This awareness of union with God is what is now within you, awaiting your expression. Awareness of union with God exists in everything. It is there in every tree and every flower. Yes, it is there in every tree and every flower, in every mountain stream and every blowing wind. It is there in each and every human being. It is now time to quit acting as if it is not. It is a time to be a channel for the awareness that exists in every tree and every flower, in each mountain stream, and in the blowing wind. It is time to be a channel for the awareness of union with God that exists in everything. You are that channel. You are that expression. And I thank God for all of us and our beautiful diversity and with the one love we share. I'm complete.
Well, I'd like to take a few, just capture practical ideas that people have, that you as facilitators have, for how do you obtain guidance? Where do you get guidance from? We've talked about a number of different ideas from the two courses, and I want to just capture these in a slide that'll come out in email. But maybe we can take about 5 or 10 minutes and just share in dialogue with this group. I mean, that one slide says, "Let us explore the nature of self guidance in joyful dialogue." So let's do that here and now for about 5 or 10 minutes. Who has things they'd like to suggest that help them in terms of obtaining guidance?
Actually, Joe, this question came up at lunch today when I was with a religious brother. He's in the Society of Mary, a religious order. And I've known him since about 1967 or 68 when I met him in high school. And we were speaking about stillness and silence. And I said, actually, in my experiences in meditation and that, there's actually a dialogue present. And it's not, let's say, conversational. But the longing to know the answer to something. I actually ask the self, and it's almost as though I'll be in the middle of that question and an answer will come in. And it's a little bit it seems a little bit contrary to some teachings in meditation, where one has to be still and silent and listen for answers. But it seems more often than not, mind come in this having a talk. There's this little mental talk going on. And there's a connection to the heart, because you're longing for this answer. That longing is not of the mind. And so, to me, that's how things are revealed to me in discussion.
Thank you.
With me, myself, and I, perhaps?
Myself. Complete.
So when you're facing challenges, you've got a challenging person or a challenging situation, where do you turn to for guidance?
When I was listening to you, Steve, talk about dialogue, I realized that for me, dialogue sometimes happens when I'm going to tarot cards because I always have a specific question. And I mean, it's really the dialogue comes when I'm looking at the three cards, either the angels shook out or the.
So you said tarot cards?
That's right. I never thought of tarot cards and dialogue as being at all related.
Okay.
Until
You're,
just
you're,
like
breaking, you're breaking up quite a bit. I just want to make sure I heard.
yeah, it is tarot cards. I just never thought of that.
If I may respond just a minute, yeah, a tarot card is, we have an intention as we sit with them. We have an intention to reach the spirit within. And so the guidance then could just kind of jump out or, as you said, speak to you as if a conversation. So yeah, these are all highly valuable ways of receiving guidance and unique for each one of us.
You know, for me, I have turned to the group itself. You know, we've gone through challenges, and so as facilitator, we can see those challenges that others might not see, or maybe we're just sensitive to them. But I remember, and George talked about our Sunday group. I turned to the Sunday group and I said, in effect, you know, I don't know how to deal with what's going on here, and so it was just tapping into dialogue itself and letting the group present answers. I'm complete.
I was going to say the same thing, Joe. Last time my group met on the fourth Wednesday, I found myself facilitating more than I wanted to, and was uncomfortable with it in that I was having read more than the people who were new to the material, I was giving my understanding of things, and it didn't feel right. And I left that night. It was fine. Everybody was okay. But I didn't feel okay about it. And what I came to was putting it back to the group was something I would have been more comfortable doing than trying to explain what I understood. And I'll be doing that more often instead of feeling like, you know, I need to provide something. And I was checking in with my heart and going from there. But still, I felt it was better if the people had been more involved. And I don't have all the answers. That's something I understand. But as the facilitator, I guess I felt some responsibility to support the group. And the way I'd rather do it in the future is to let it fold into the conversation of the group and let the group take it. Thank you. I'm complete.
Yeah, what comes to mind is the definition of the word facilitator. We facilitate. We're not the answer person.
And Corinne?
I'm just going to chime in with all of that because we have to remember that we are there to just facilitate. And I think it's very helpful when the facilitator demonstrates vulnerability, demonstrates that they don't have that answer, and really puts the faith in the group that each one of them has the answer that'll make the most sense to them. So pausing and allowing for that silence. The question, I think, Joe, that you threw out there is good. That, you know, or Karen saying, what does the group think? I'm kind of just contemplating and would love to hear from some other people. So, yeah, take the weight off our shoulders as facilitators and just allow the group to synthesize and to come forth naturally. I'm complete.
Any more? I'm going to shift gears, but before I shift gears, any more thoughts on
Yeah,
where
this is Lemoyne, and one thing I feel like I have to note about suffering is it seemed to me that both Course in Miracles and Course of Love, um, they relate suffering to judgment or grievance, and I, I think I've said before that it's easier to know when I'm not, not in that space. Somehow it's almost easier. This may be just where I progressed to, that I've gotten to where I notice when I'm not sustaining it. But in facilitation, when I feel like it's kind of going off the rails or something, or somebody is just describing things and not really expressing, perhaps, for me, it's clear that I'm not aiming at the right thing if I'm trying to judge or fix something. So that really what I think what needs to come forth is like you say, Joe, maybe just a request of the group, but or just a reminder of a simple assertion, a way to, if when it occurs, and I feel like I can actually guide the discussion in any way. It's this looking beyond suffering, my own and the other person's, and then reaching for the union. And that's what I had to say. Thanks, I'm complete.
That's a great transition, Lemoyne, because let me share some of the topics for next that we're considering. We want to suggest here for our next session in 2 weeks, because what comes to mind is this, how am I relating to my own feelings as I facilitate? So am I suffering? Well, if I'm suffering as a facilitator, then I need to realize that maybe I need to change how I see the situation. Anyway, we've Joan and I have gone through the list that we developed 2 sessions ago, so almost a month ago, and we reworded these to make them a little simpler, and came up with a little bit of an ordering. And so this top section here is what we feel like we've gone through so far. How do we tie into our heart? Where do we receive guidance? How do we know the one self that we share with God? And then here are what we're thinking would be good topics for the next 1 or 2 sessions. How do we help our gathering engage in dialogue? How do we help dialogue happen in the group, in the gathering? What can the role of the addendum provide in terms of guidance as a facilitator? And then there's a whole list of other topics we've thought about. And I don't know whether anybody has any major comments at this point, or you can give comments offline, but let me just stop and say and ask, I guess, are you okay with these 1 or 2 being the next couple of focal points, if you will, for our next gathering? I'm complete.
Well, I appreciate you, Joe and Joanne, just going through this process of looking at these steps, looking at these different means that we could be using. We can be sitting with as questions, because each one of these calls I've gotten value out of what I've heard. Sharing, I found myself being able to relate a lot, and also just step back and observe and see what's there. Thank you. Complete.
And I like all of the questions on that chart very much. And I'm really not sure what the best order is, but the order that they're in is fine, I'm sure. And I'm so grateful for the hour or two we've been together. It has really been uplifting. And my prayer is to be congruent with my mission.
Thank you. Being congruent with our mission. Isn't that a beautiful thought? Huh? Yes.
Well, give us your input offline and email. You'll see these slides come out in a few days. There'll be a link to them. Look at this one slide on ideas for future gatherings and let us know if you agree, disagree, have other inputs, have other suggestions. But if we don't hear, the next session in 2 weeks, we'll be focusing on how do we take the group into deeper dialogue? How do we facilitate dialogue? I'm complete.
I'd just like to say I think it's great,
Yeah.
Joe, and the questions and everything.
Yeah.
And just the fact that this meeting is happening, I think is important. I'm complete.
Thank you. It looks like we're about at the end of our session. And Bill, you have a comment, and we'll get that. But I also wanted to know from Jeff, do you know the full poem from Rumi that you sent me the other day?
Yeah, I can't. I'll try to get to the end of it. How does it start, Joan? If you could start it for me. My mind is kind of racing. It's been a busy day. Somewhere out beyond all ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there's a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas and concepts don't make any sense, or ideas and concepts, I forget exactly how it goes. Ideas and concepts don't make any sense, and even the distinction between you and I doesn't mean anything. That's roughly it. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Thank you. I think that's beautiful. And Bill, yes.
I believe that's Rumi.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. I'm appreciating being here, sitting in this oneness and feeling this connection of just all here longing and seeing and desiring and willing to share this oneness. Thank you. Joan, I wanted to ask, I loved the prayer that you brought in from the end, from the Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
Whereabouts was that, if I may?
Okay, that was in chapter 5, Teaching and Healing. Chapter 5, Teaching and Healing. If you have edition 3, it's on page 83.
And we'll send that out with the slides. We have a slide on it we didn't present, but it will come
Yes.
out.
Okay,
Right.
great. The Holy Spirit's chapter. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's called Teaching and Healing.
Yes,
But, yeah, section 4:8. Yes.
thank you.
Well, thank you all. I don't feel like a total failure now.
Oh, we're just moving on in our I am, aren't we?
Yeah.
Allowing it to lead us. And it's such a pleasure to be here with such beautiful, lovely people sharing the road. Thank you.
Joan.
Thank you. Thank you from my heart.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you all. Blessings.